Thank you for joining us for another of our Discover Wildlife evenings. My name is Ian Lloyd. I'm one of the product managers here at Wildlife Worldwide. And this evening, I'm delighted to be joined by Mike Dilger for our Discover the Wildlife of the UK talk. Hello, Mike.
Yeah, good evening. Good evening to all my friends at Wildlife Worldwide and the Travelling Naturalists. I'm sure there's a few out there that I've tour led in the past and hopefully will tour lead in the future.
Great stuff. I'm sure you all know Mike already, but for anyone who doesn't, he's one of our most popular tour leaders, an exceptional naturalist, presenter, author, and we're delighted to have him this evening. So just to let everyone know, there'll be the opportunity to ask questions throughout this talk. Please use the Q&A or the chat function to do this. We'll try to get through as many questions as we can, but for any we can't get through, we'll follow up by email. And also, just at the end of the talk, we will have a poll where there's the opportunity to request a travel plan. So if you're ready, Mike, I'll hand over to you.
Thank you so much, Ian. Good evening, fine folk. It's been a bit of a trial getting here. I'm going to have to admit straight away, I normally stand and deliver when I give these lectures to Wildlife Worldwide folk, but I've been in bed with flu for the last 3 days. So you'll forgive me if I take this one sitting down, but hopefully the well-known Dilger enthusiasm will still be there, despite the fact that I was kind of in bed until about lunchtime today. But anyway, I'm so excited to talk about a couple of locations that are very dear to my heart. I do a lot of tour leading these days with Wildlife Worldwide, particularly in Britain. Somerset Levels, close to my heart, and my home, Mull, Shetland, going up to Speyside a lot. And also I'll be doing Islay for the first time this year. I think that tour's already sold out, which is absolutely brilliant news. But I'm really excited, of course, to be talking about Mull first and foremost, and a new tour that's designed by myself and Mr. Lloyd, who we spoke about. We were scheming about places we could go, and we were both enthused about a place that I live close to, which is the south coast of England. And Ian knows well because he lives in Devon. So, hey presto, we've come up with a tour. But first and foremost, I'm going to talk about Mull, if that's okay. Not entirely sure where that's oops, sorry. I was going to start, press the wrong button. Anyway, for those that don't know me, frankly, you're a disgrace, because I do a lot of tour leading with Wildlife Worldwide and also a lot of telly. I'm just about to go filming tomorrow for the One Show, going down to the New Forest to look for lesser spotted woodpecker with my son Zachary. More about that to come later, because we'll be going for those in the New Forest as well. So yeah, the New Forest is perhaps how I'm best known, certainly televisually wise, but Wildlife Worldwide is how I'm best known for tour leading. And here's me up to my breastbone in snow, filming in the One Show way back in the day when they had the Beast from the East in Yorkshire. I don't think we'll get those conditions on Mull or the south coast. You'll be delighted to know in May or June. And I think people know me on television as being a British wildlife expert, but I've spent a lot of time abroad. So I've worked in the countries of Ecuador, and I'm tour leading in Ecuador in April with a tour I'm really excited to be getting involved in, which is, I think, fully sold out. I've also worked in Vietnam and also in Tanzania, probably countries that many of you, because if there's one humbling aspect of tour leading for Wildlife Worldwide, I realise that I'm not the most travelled person in the minibus. There are people who've just been all over the flipping place. So anyway, that's my kind of background as a biologist working in the tropics. But I've travelled all over Britain as well, because I've done 450 films for the One Show. David Attenborough is probably the world's most travelled man around Britain, but he hasn't been to as many places as I've been to around the UK. I've been to Scotland on at least 100 separate filming occasions to try and catch up with everything from basking sharks to crested tits, and then all over the place. So chuffs for whales, looking for basking sharks down on the south coast. So all over, even Northern Ireland, for doing things like mountain hares and the golden hare of Rathlin and chuffs as well. So I really am incredibly well travelled. And because I'm British born and bred, Britain is my first love. And Mull is a particularly spectacular place, and that's why we do at least 2 or 3 trips a year to Mull. It is the wildlife island. Now, the first thing I should say about Mull is, and obviously we'll talk about the south coast a little bit later. The first thing I should say about Mull is, it is beautiful when the sun is out. The landscapes are amazing. You can see right across here, this is over Loch na Keal, and you can see Ben More in the background, which is the only Munro, which is a mountain over 3,000 feet. And they get this Munro baggers. There's 350, 360 of them, and people try to climb more than Munros in Scotland. There's only one. But Mull, in good weather, there is no finer place in Britain. I mean, it can be hit and miss. I've had trips where it's been very wet, and I've had trips where it's been incredibly dry and water or sunshine. 2023 was amazing. 2022 was slightly wetter, but no matter what the weather's like, we can always find some wildlife, and it's never ever water or rain. So we find some, we just pick our moments and we get out there and we see some amazing stuff. The thing I should say about why we've chosen to talk about Mull and the south coast is they're both exclusive trips. They're very different to the other trips I lead. We're staying at a place that is only us. We're taking over. There will be no other guests staying there. There's some members of staff looking after us, cooking for us, all that kind of thing. But lots of exclusive activities. Certainly in Scotland, we'll get a chance to go out on looking for white-tailed eagles, on exclusive on a boat charter. We'll go on a boat charter, we're looking out for whales as well. So we get lots of exclusive opportunities. So that's why the price is a little bit more expensive, but the food is out of this world. That's Knockhouse, I should say. That's Knockhouse where we stay. So Wildlife Worldwide will be taking over in June. And a lot of those rooms, you're staying in there. You can see the top rooms with a little bay, with a little roofs there. They have house martins coming in, feeding. So you open your window and you've got house martins flying right past your nose when you're there. And you can look over the shores of Loch na Keal and walk down to the loch behind you. It's placed brilliantly. The grounds are gorgeous as well for a lovely walk around. If you just fancy getting some air in between all the various activities we do. And the food, I have to say, if you've had better food anywhere on a Wildlife Worldwide trip, then tell me, because the food here, I think, is Michelin starred. I mean, it's absolutely amazing. There's a lass called Poppy, who's about late 20s, early 30s, who comes and feeds us. And the food is beautiful. And we sit on this amazing table with kind of antlers and stags looking down at us. It is an old hunting lodge, but there are too many red deer in Scotland, and they need to be culled, or a number need to be culled, shall I say. But the place where we dine is absolutely wonderful. So we'll have breakfast here, we'll have dinner there, and we'll also have lunch where we're out and about. So we'll take a nice packed lunch with us. So, I mean, there's lots of things to do there. This is Simon, who I've tour led in the past with. We're having a little bit of quiet downtime before the guests arrive for dinner, having a little game of pool. And most of the time, it's Alexa that I tour lead with. Alexa's a fantastic guide. She lives on Mull, and she's a professional guide. She tours a lot on Mull, on Iceland, and she's one of my best wildlife mates. So I have a fantastic time. So we'll have Alexa in one minibus, me in the other, and then we just have a day with Alexa and then a day out with me, and we just switch over. And it works out really well. So we'll have 2 minibuses, and that's the way we'll get around the island. Machina's Mull at the back of our hand. Here we go, beautiful view of Loch na Keal, showing Ben More again. And if people want to see, if people go to Mull, they really want to see 3 animals. They want to see lots more than 3, of course. And the first thing they want to see is otters. I mean, there are a lot of otters on Mull. There are a lot of otters in Scotland. I mean, you can go to Shetland, you can go to Skye. I see them regularly in Speyside as well. But if you want to go to Speyside, if you want to go to sea otters in Scotland, the best place to go is Mull. They do take some looking for every now and again. It can be slightly tricky to find, but I've never failed yet. Alexa knows all the best spots. I'm really good at finding them. And there's only one thing better than one otter, that's sorry, find out what's up to my slideshow there. There's 3 otters. There we go. My clicker has just ceased to function. Anyway, 3 otters. So we will be scanning around. We usually go out just maybe 2 hours before low tide or 2 hours after low tide. And that's the best time to look for the otters, either in the seaweed, and you can see these 3 otters here have been drying out and look all furry and brown. And when they go into the water, look almost brown, black and sleek. So you're either looking for them in brown seaweed or you're looking for a V-shaped wake in the water. And that's, you know, hopefully we'll certainly catch up with the otters there. It's now decided to work again. So we get a lot, as well as looking for otters, there's of course a huge amount of coastline. And we've got a good 6 days to discover Mull. We certainly do at least 1 day touring around the southern part of Mull, which is around the Ross of Mull, possibly onto Iona as well. We've been to Iona the last couple of years to listen for corncrake, where the Iona faith community are very well known, live and work. And also we do a loop around the north of the island. And this is one place we stop, a beautiful place called Eos Force Waterfall. Eos Force means waterfall, and waterfall means waterfall. So it's so good. It's like New York. They named it twice. So we'll probably stop off for either a cup of tea here, a cup of coffee, and just take in and take some lovely photographs and look for dipper or grey wagtail or things like that. I did mention, of course, that people are looking for 3 things: otter and, of course, the 2 eagles. And a large part of my time will be spent looking upwards. This is one of the tours we went on. We have fantastic views of eagles, both species, Goldie, white-tailed. Even if it's like raining heavily, we will pretty much be able to find them because Alexa knows where the nests are. And I'm very good at spotting them as well. So between us, we're pretty well covered. So the eagles are absolutely fabulous on Mull. First and foremost, Goldie. I mean, it's the original eagle. There's 500 pairs in Scotland now. Not a single pair breeding in England or Wales, as I'm sure you're aware of. There were a pair in the Lake District in the 80s and 90s. Then the female went and the male stood around for a while and then just disappeared. Very sad. But certainly we'll get eagles. I cannot guarantee that you will see eagles like this. What's more often is you perhaps see them like this. So this is a sub-adult golden eagle. You can tell with the white underwings and the white band to the tail. And it's being chased by 3 ravens. And so ravens are about the size of a buzzard. And a golden eagle is twice the size of a raven. So they call buzzards in Scotland tourist eagles, because people go, is that an eagle? No, buzzard. Is that an eagle? No, buzzard. Is that an eagle? No, buzzard. But when you see an eagle, hopefully you really should be able to tell. Those massive fingers are really distinct, and they've got a very, very deep, broad wings. Quite a small head, the golden eagle, and a long tail. And we'll look at the difference when we see the whitetails. But we have a few locations pinned for golden eagle eyries or nests, and we should see. Last time we were there, we had 5, 6 golden eagle sightings, so we did pretty well for goldies. I personally think that Britain's most beautiful bird of prey is the hen harrier. We've obviously got 3 species of harrier. There's the Montague's harrier, which is really rare, breeding down in Hampshire, and I mean, and Castle Rising in Norfolk and Lincolnshire. We're down to about 6 pairs in Norfolk as well. And then we've got the hen harrier, which is just about hanging on as a breeding bird in Britain and doing well in Scotland. And then the marsh harrier is doing phenomenally well across wetlands of Somerset and East Anglia and Lancashire. But the male hen harrier, pearl grey, black wingtips like they've been dipped in ink, and that white ring around its backside. I mean, I never, ever get sick of seeing a male hen harrier. They're just beautiful birds. And there were good populations breeding there. We saw male and female hen harrier last time. So we're very optimistic that we'll get hen harriers. Shorties, short-eared owls. There are lots in winter around at the moment. I was just found online today near where I live by the Severn Estuary that one guy found 3. They're birds that are coming here from Scandinavia and overwintering on our coasts, but they breed on Mull. And we saw something fantastic that I've heard it that I've never seen before. I've seen shorties, I don't know, 100 times, but we had one displaying and calling, doing this kind of weird dog bark, like a oh, flying round above our heads. And we'd found a territory of a short-eared owl right by the roadside. And it was so exciting. Everyone was thrilled. But probably this is what you're more likely to see. That big, flat face, the lemon yellow eyes, long wings, and it's got that black kind of comma on the underside of its wings, which is really distinctive. So if you see a tawny owl, for example, they're much shorter winged because that's a forest bird and needs to fly in between the trees. But short-eared owls are an open moorland bird, so they don't need short wings, and they just fly like a butterfly when they're quartering the moorlands looking for prey like short-tailed field voles and wood mice and things like that, bank voles as well, possibly. So we should get some nice views, hopefully, of short-eared owl. We're really excited. Every time I see shorties, I'm really excited. One of my favourite small birds, which I never flipping see in England, is windchat. As far as I'm aware, this is the best windchat. People who are really keen birders will have their own favourite location to catch up with windchat. They're doing pretty well in North Wales, North England, around the Pennines. There are a few places in Scotland, but Mull is terrific for them. And it's the only place I regularly hear them singing. They've got this beautiful little scratchy warble, a bit like a stone chat, but hearing them is just sensational. So we have a couple of land days where I said we do the North Ring of Mull and the South Ring, but one of the standout days, without a doubt, is going to the Treshnish Islands. It is just brilliant, and for people who want to take photographs, you will fill your boots here. It's a series of islands, small islands. Lunga is the main one, and Lunga's the only one that we do visit, although we visit Stafford in the boat as well. But Lunga is just sensational. So we come in on the boat, and quite often we have to put a pontoon gangplank. You have to walk the plank to get onto the island, and then it's probably the only place where we'll walk any more than about 10 or 15 minutes, because you have to walk up a steep hill, but it's probably 50 meters in terms of altitude, and it's a well-marked path, so it's not tricky. And then you get onto the puffin platform. But as you're on your way over, you'll get a good chance to look for, excuse me, things like grey seals. There are seals bobbing up all over the place. You know you're coming up because the grey seals breed there, and you might get a chance to sing harbour seals as well. But once you get up on top of that puffin platform, this is what you'd be confronted with. It's absolutely amazing. It's a 100-metre strip, and all the way along the edge, it is puffins. You might recognise the photographer there, Mr. Hyde, who works with Nick Garbutt as well. And these photographs were taken by Nick, actually, and you can just see how wonderful the puffins are. They all around you, and these are the pictures they took with the camera. So, I mean, if you want to kind of just lie on your belly and wait for puffins, then you will fill your boots. Normally on these talks, I only have one slide per animal, but puffins are just so flipping sexy. They're definitely worth 3. But of course, it's not just about the puffins there. There's a fantastic, you carry on walking from Puffin Rock. Some people are happy to say, leave me here. I'll stay here for the next 3 hours photographing puffins. That's all I want to do. But a few other folk will wander maybe about 50 meters along to Hart Rock. And that's where you get a chance to see the guillemots and the razorbills. This is a bridled guillemot, so it's the same species, but the further north, it's got that white eye-ring round and that kind of weird monocle. And the further north you get, the more, so basically a colour variation or colour morph. The further north you go, you see more bridled guillemots. So we'll get a chance to go to Hart Rock, and I mean, you basically walk around there and you sit on this massive platform. I love to have my lunch there. And then you're confronted with thousands of guillemots and razorbills. It's a cacophony. There's kittiwakes there as well. And usually about the time we go is just when the eggs are hatching. So we try to play the game of spot the egg and spot the chick, because they've got these amazing piriform eggs, which are very, very pointed. And the theory was they were on such narrow ledges, if they knocked them, they'd go round in circles so they didn't go off the ledge and smash. Because they can only produce one egg a year and one chick per year. That's now been proved to be bunkum. They've done tests on the eggs and they said they don't roll around in the tight point anymore. But I don't know, but the eggs are very, very distinct. So usually on the way back, we go to Staffa and have a look at Fingal's Cave. You can see all the columns there, and then you get the tufa on top, which is the kind of volcanic remains. And of course, it's famous for Fingal's Cave, which is the entrance, just that big dark rectangle you can see in the middle of the picture. These are the basalt columns, of course. If you're into geology, then Fingal's Cave is an absolute must. And if it's nice and flat and calm, then usually the boat handler can go right inside the cave. So you can go right, put your nose in and go right into Fingal's Cave before he backs out. And it's quite cheesy, but usually they pay Mendelssohn's piece, Fingal's Cave. So I put a little bit, so I know some of you can't hear sound. So apologies if you can't hear this, but this is what we'll hear on the boat. If you can't hear it, then just imagine Mendelssohn's Fingal's Cave in your head. I do hope you can hear that. If you can't, play it on Spotify later or listen to it for your CD collection. Anyway, one of the real highlights on the boat is that we get an exclusive out with Mull Charters to go and photograph white-tailed eagles. Now, white-tailed eagles are a massive conservation success story. And this is some of the guys that I know very well, actually, been out with me a number of times. I know some of those characters are coming out with me to Isle as well, actually, in the Festival of Wildlife. So anyway, hello if you're watching out there, John and Susie and a few others. It's an amazing opportunity. For photographers, it is heaven sent. Because quite often on these talks, you might get pictures where you think, oh, they're Photoshop pictures. But you can get the opportunity to take amazing pictures. The father and son who run Mull Charters take you out on the boat. They know where 2 or 3 pairs of white-tailed eagles are breeding around Loch Nakeal, and they know the boat really well. And they the lads throw fish into the water, and the eagles come down to take the fish. And of course, I mentioned that white-tailed eagles are a massive conservation success story. They were actually lost to Scotland in 1918, and a reintroduction project started on Mull in 1975, and that went from 1975 to 1985, with 82 young birds that were brought over from Norway that were quite often second or third chicks in a nest will not survive anyway. So they take the second or third born. It's a bit like Romulus and Remus, one doesn't survive. So they take the chicks and they brought them to Mull and to Rum, and they quite quickly colonized Mull. And now Mull has got the highest concentration of white-tailed eagles in Northern Europe. There are actually 25 pairs of white-tailed eagle on Mull, and 23 pairs of Goldie. That was of last year. So we're talking a massive density, which means you'll get shots like this, potentially, and this, because they will be close, and this, and this. People say, what do I need? A 500mm lens? And I'm like, you're on a boat, you need a 200mm lens, because they are close. And this is a bird that is a flying barn door. It's got a wingspan that's well over 7 meters. And when they come in, people are going like, oh, it's too close, it's too close. So if you like photographing birds of prey, and you want pictures like this and this and this and this, then come on the Mull trip, because it is an absolutely fantastic opportunity. As well as the trip out on Mull Charters, we also go out with out of Tobermory with a different company, and we go out to look for whales and dolphins. Now, this can be a day that's a slightly movable feast this day, because what we need is we need calm weather. When we get calm weather, it's so much easier to spot dolphins and porpoises and whales. I mean, I've been out there when we've had everything. In 2023, it was just, I'll show you what we saw last year. And then in 2022, it was tough. We saw a lot of good birds, but it was just too rough to see a lot of stuff. But hopefully we'll choose a nice calm day and we'll get a chance to go out. And one of the first things we'll see harbour porpoise, hopefully just inside the harbour. And then we'll see lots of common dolphins. Probably the species we're most keen to see, or most likely to see, is minke whale. They're kind of quite shy cetaceans. But if it's calm, we should see the blow, we should see that long dorsal back and that small falcate fin. And you can see just in the water here, they've got a massive white band across their flippers, which is very characteristic of minkies. And no one's quite sure why that is. But last year, if I fast forward, we had common dolphins. We had, first and foremost, we had a minke. Then we had a minke spy hopping, which I'd never seen before. I've seen minkies on 50, 60 occasions. I've never seen them sticking their snout out. It's called a cuta rostra. It's got a really sharp snout. And then we had common dolphins turn up. And then we had a humpback. And the skipper's been doing that trip for 15 years. And he said, this is the third time I've had humpback in 15 years. Then the following week, when Nick Baker was there, they only had flipping orca as well. They didn't see the humpback, but they got orca. So it just goes to show, we go out into the Minch, west of the Outer Hebrides, and you can see amazing stuff. And these are the pictures that Alexa got of the humpback. Absolutely, mate, it was so close. And someone, one of the guests joked, oh, God, I wish it'd be a bit closer. And then somebody else said, if it was any closer, it would be in the boat. And it was right alongside the boat. And then only Alexa managed to get one shot of it breaching just as it went back in. This is its fluke as it went back in. So yeah, Mull is really, really exciting. So I'm more than happy to answer any questions about Mull at the end. But I'm moving on now to the superb South Coast, which is a little trip that myself and Ian have been devising over the last few months. I mentioned the kind of exclusivity of these trips. This is a Warmwell House. It's a Grade 1 listed building, and it is absolutely astonishing. I went down for a recce there to see it earlier this year, just so I could familiarise myself with it, because I've never been to Warmwell. And I went with my friend Ed Druitt, who we're hoping he'll be tour leading as well. And it was just frankly flabbergasting. It was so beautiful. And we take over this whole place ourselves. They serve us breakfast there, they serve us dinner there, they throw us the keys, then the owners go and sleep in a lodge house. So we basically have the whole place to ourselves. There are so many beautiful paintings around here. And this is one of the 2 dining rooms that we'll be eating out of. I mean, just beggars belief. I half expect someone to kind of grab me by the ear and tell me to sling my hook up, having fun staying here. But it really is a sensational place and a great location as well, not far from Winchester. So here's one of the rooms, got 4-poster beds. I mean, it's an old house. I mean, so sometimes there's 1 or 2 rooms that don't have ensuite. Most of them do have en suites, but the rooms are really quite sensational. And it's just a wonderful, wonderful place to stay. I had a tour for 4 hours, couldn't get enough of it. And then we came out chatting to the owner, and we spotted a male hen harrier flying past. It was absolutely brilliant. And that was, I went there in February, and when we're there in May, it'll be hooching with wildlife. So lots of events planned for the whole South Coast. We're ostensibly covering 3 counties. We're doing Dorset, we're doing Hampshire, and a little foray into Wiltshire, which isn't really South Coast, but we've made an exception because we're doing something really quite special there. One of the first things we'll do is we'll go down to Portland Bill. This is the new Portland Lighthouse. You can see in the background the old Portland Lighthouse that is now an observatory. It's the Portland Bill has got 3 lighthouses. There's one off to the left as well. But it's a great place to look for migrants. And also as well, it's this is the Portland Observatory here, and you can see the new one in the background. So we'll be having a little look along the coastal path. But first, if the weather's good and they'll have the ringing nets out, we've got an exclusive ringing demo from the team there. They put the mist nets out in the scrub, which, as you can see, just behind the lighthouse, and we'll have a look at what's in the net, and the guys can talk about the process and what they're doing, where the birds have come from, where the birds are going to, all that kind of stuff. So we'll get a chance to see some beautiful birds in the hand. This is a wren that actually was taken in my back garden with my friend Ed Druitt, ringing, who will hopefully be on the trip as well. But we'll also, as well as the ringing, we'll also get a chance to go down to the coast and really enjoy the very southern tip of Portland Bill. And we'll do a bit of sea watching there. We'll check out the seabirds. So there's a little flock of guillemots there that are doing pretty well. I always love a bit of sea watching, and we'll certainly be looking out for things like Manx shearwater. But the great thing about Portland Bill is it's a really important migratory stop for lots of birds. So a lot of birds that are just coming into the UK will often land in Portland Bill first and foremost. Usually the first wheat ear, which is the wheat ear of the year, is seen somewhere like Portland Bill or the lizard or Dungeness in Kent, because they fly all the way from kind of northern Africa, go right over the continent, and then they hit UK, and they usually hit somewhere like Portland Bill. So we'll certainly be looking for beautiful things like this male wheat ear. And you never know your luck. I've had 5 hoopoes in Britain, 3 of them been in Dorset. May is a really good time for spring overshoots. What tends to happen is birds like hoopoes don't breed in the UK, but they occasionally, if it's fine weather on the continent, they overshoot. They hit poor weather in the UK, and then they stop there. So I've actually filmed hoopoes in Dorset a couple of times. So we'll certainly, you never know your luck. We're looking out for things like hoopoes. That's the beauty of being in spring on the south coast. You never know what you're going to see. Certainly after we've had a look at the Portland Bill, we'll be wandering back and just taking a bit of Chesil Beach, which is the largest kind of shingle ridge in Britain. And you can see that little bit of land mass that goes in. You got the harbour on the right, and then obviously you've got the kind of the English Channel to the left. But that's called the Fleet. That's the area that we take over to get over to the mainland from Portland Bill. And the Fleet behind the lagoon is fantastic. It's got shingle. It's got a really good breeding colony of waders, and I will certainly be having a quick stop off there and looking for things like winged plover on the shingle ridge. The sandwich terns could be flying past, but the real starbird of the area in the Fleet is the little tern. So it's wonderful call. Wheelo-wee-you, 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 when they call. So we'll certainly be looking out for the little terns. They nest right down the shingle ridge, very close to the water. They're pretty hopeless sometimes. They nest too low and they get flooded out if there's a high tide. But they're doing pretty well because they're very susceptible to disturbance, very susceptible to disturbance from dogs, from people walking and kite surfing and all that kind of stuff. But they're really well protected at the Fleet. So hopefully we'll get a chance to catch up with the little terns. Just a little bit further north on that day, we'll get a chance to take in a few reserves. I've completely forgotten the name of this reserve. It's one of the reserves really, really close. It's not Arn, it's Radipole Lake. So it's really close by Radipole. So we'll stop off at Radipole. Really good place. I can see Shelduck there. Really good place for waders particularly. So we're looking for things like green sandpipers, double passage migrant, and also for things like med gulls. I know Mediterranean gull, I know med gulls are probably people's least favourite bird, but med gull is dapper. It should be called black-headed gull. Black-headed gull should be called chocolate-hooded gull. And this bird is an absolute Bobby Dazzler when it's in summer plumage. Big hair with a nice red bill, a proper black head, and it's got this lovely call. It goes, meow, meow, meow. So we'll listen out and look out for waders and gulls and maybe 1 or 2 species of wildfowl there as well. Going on, probably wildfowl might be better very close by at Radipole Lake. That's another area that we'll pop into for an hour. Not a lot of walking involved in these sites. Drop in, see what we see, because we'll be coming back from Portland Bill on that day. Certainly looking for Shetty's warbler, a real success story. Arguably a bird that's benefiting from climate change, from our milder winters. You know, it's got a brilliant song. Someone described it as someone dropping a saxophone in a reed bed, which I think is just the best description of a bird song ever. It goes da 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 da, which is wonderful. So they're super secretive, but they are so loud. And also we'll get a chance to really practice our bird song. There'll be sedge warblers and reed warblers there. And this is a sedge warbler with its supercilium and its black eye stripe and its streaky back. And the sedge warbler and reed warbler are quite similar songs. Sedge warbler's more jazz and reed warbler's more classical music. So we'll have fun learning to differentiate between the calls or the songs, because I bloody love bird song. So whether you like it or not, we'll be listening to all the bird songs while we're there, because it's just, I mean, if you just only look with your binoculars, you're missing half the fun, in my opinion. One of the things we're really excited about, which I planned with Ian right at the very start, was to drop into Salisbury Plain. Salisbury Plain is one of the great grasslands left in Northern Europe. And when we talk about Britain being a depauperate land and nature is only inside nature reserves, we've lost a lot of species. Well, Salisbury Plain, courtesy of the MOD, because a lot of it is out of bounds. They can't build on it. I mean, it's training for the MOD and for the tanks and things like that. So you can't go on large parts of MOD, and that's why it's so flipping good for wildlife. And we've organised an exclusive with this fine man with this handlebar moustache, Dave Waters. Now, Dave Waters is an ex-copper, but he gave up police work and he said, I want to bring the great bustard back to Wiltshire. I'm Wiltshire born and bred. It was here. It's on the coat of arms. Why the hell is it not back? And the Great Bustards and the success of the Great Bustard Project is down to that man. He's a really good mate of mine. I've interviewed him 3 or 4 times, and I rang him up and said, "Can we do a day tour with you, Dave, to come and see the Bustards?" He was like, "Absolutely, mate. It'd be my pleasure to take you around." So Dave, the main man, will take us around for the day on a safari round Salisbury Plain, which is really exciting. Because I've been to the Great Bustard Project 3 or 4 times, and interviewed Dave for the One Show and for Radio Wiltshire about it, things like that. But I've never been on the safari, so I'm really excited. So we go in Land Rovers. We all pile into Land Rovers, and this is what we're looking for: the Bobby Dazzler, either the heaviest or second heaviest flying bird in the world. Some people say it's the Call Me Bustard, but Dave's generally the lecking. It's a lecking species like black grouse, like capercaillie. So the males display and the females are attracted to the one that looks the best. And although the lek takes quite slightly earlier in the year, April is probably the best month, Dave said, Mike, there'll still be birds lecking in May. And this is what they look like when they're lecking. They just basically turn inside out and go white. They don't make much noise because the Salisbury Plain is completely flat. So you can see this display. It's like a massive white football from miles away. So I've actually never seen them lek. I've seen them quite a few times with Dave, but I've never seen them lek. So getting a chance to see them turn inside out and white, to me, would be something really quite special. So we've got, basically got the whole day with Dave, or certainly kind of 2/3 of the day to have a look around. As well, of course, as looking at the Great Bustards from a bespoke hide, where they might be quite far away, but we'll have telescopes. But if you've got a good lens, then you might be able to get some pictures. We should see some other really good birds as well. The thick-knees, stone curlew. It's a weird name. It's nothing related. It's not at all related to curlew, of course. It's really called curlew because its call goes coolie, coolie, and stones because it's obviously lives in a stony, barren area. So Dave gets stone curlews breeding all over the area where the bustards are. So we should be really lucky, and we should be able to get some stone curlews as well. To some of you, this is probably quite a common bird, but to me, it's not. They just aren't seen in the West Country. And it's probably one of the fastest declining farm birds, corn bunting. It's got a wonderful song. It sounds like, I haven't got my keys with me, it sounds like jangling keys. They're fantastic birds. And Salisbury Plain is a real stronghold for corn buntings. So Kent's pretty good for them as well. I do tend to get them up in Speyside as well when I go to the Moray coast. but I never see them at home. Wiltshire is a good county for them. So we'll certainly be looking for and listening out for the jangling keys of corn buntings. And also we'll get a chance to look for the English partridge, grey partridge. So we're looking for birds really that have become the birds that are the fastest declining species in Britain are farmland birds. Skylark, linnet, partridge, corn bunting, tree sparrow, all those species that hopefully we'll get a good slice of when we go to go and hang out with Dave and do the Land Rover Safari. So really excited about the day that's going to take us on to Salisbury Plain. We'll also be spending a bit of time in the New Forest. This is Acres Down, which is one of the most famous birding sites in the New Forest. And I am going there tomorrow to film Lesser Spotted Woodpecker for the One Show with my son Zachary. We're going to try and see if we can see 3 woodpeckers in one day. The hardest one, of course, is Lesser Spotted Woodpecker. Great spot should be no problem. Green, if we're a bit persistent, we should get. So we're going to Acres Down. It's, of course, a really famous place for looking for raptors as well. But the raptors are generally later in the day when the sun warms up. This is the species that we would really, really like to see. They are flipping tough to see. Lesser Spotted Woodpecker. I haven't seen one for years. I'm really excited about going this weekend to see if I can catch up with one. I mean, I see great spots and greens almost every day when I'm at home. The Lesser Spotted Woodpecker is down to about 800 pairs now, but the stronghold is in the New Forest. So if we're going to see them anywhere, we're going to see them at Acres Down. So when we get there, first thing we'll do is we'll have a walk. It's probably a 5-10 minute walk, just on a gentle path, and we'll listen out and look out for Lesser Spotted Woodpecker. The other mega, of course, is Hawfinch, Coccothraustees, another brilliant bird. And that's a really good site for Hawfinch. So we'll be listening out for their funny little tink, tink call they make. They're like smoke, these things. I mean, I've seen them 20, 30 times, but every time I never take my binoculars away from them because they're just, every microsecond you spend looking at a hawfinch is just a wonderful thing because they just disappear. These are really, really hard birds to see, but we will certainly go for them. I mean, the woodland birds are tricky. There are no guarantees, but with myself and Ed as birders, then you've got, I mean, really keenly obsessive birders, and we've got every chance. One of the birds that's doing incredibly well is firecrest. Various theories as to why firecrest is doing well, possibly climate change. They're out-competing goldcrest in areas as well. We're very optimistic we'll get firecrest, so it's got the big white supercilium. It's got the mossy green back, got that lovely golden crest as well. So they've been calling loads at the moment. I've got a firecrest near me at Chew Valley Lake, so I heard one singing yesterday. So hopefully we'll get a good chance to sing firecrest. And then as the day warms up, we'll go on to Acres Down, on top of Acres Down, and this is the bird we'd really like to see, honey buzzard. Honey buzzard, best place they breed is around the forest, around the New Forest, Acres Down. Middle of May when we're going is the best time. So if we get some decent weather, then this is the bird. That's probably the bird I'd most like to see on the whole trip. A really nice view of honey buzzard would be mega for me. So and hopefully a mega for you as well. So we'll certainly give our best shot. I mean, Acres Down in May with good weather, you've got as good a chance as anywhere in Britain to see honey buzzard. Good chance of seeing lots of hobbies as well. I see millions of hobbies because they always pass through the sunset levels. But you know, they're just a miniature falcon with their orange wings, so their orange undersides and thighs, undertailed covert, shall I say, and get these dashing all over the place, really fast in level flight. And the other raptor as well we'll be looking for is the goshawk. May slightly late. The best now actually are watching them displaying in March, but they breed, they absolutely breed in the forest surrounding Acres Down. So we'll be scanning there, looking for sparrowhawks, looking for kestrels, looking for peregrines, looking for all manner of raptors, and particularly keeping an eye out for goshawk as well. Moving swiftly on, this is Boulderwood. So when we spent some time at Acres Down, excuse me, we'll move on to Boulderwood. Really super site, a bit of woodland, and really nice heathland as well. And this is one of the birds that I really, really like to see. Woodlark. It's a bird that likes lowland heath. It's doing really, really well at the moment. It's starting to spread further north. It's doing well into the Forest of Dean. It's got the most beautiful song. It's like a skylark with a very short tail. And if you look at the bend of the wing, it's always got a little, like a little black and white barcode. And myself and Ed went down to look at Warminster House. We popped into Creech Heath, which I'll talk about in a minute. And we had a woodlark displaying over our head. And it was singing, and it's the most beautiful song. So I hope you can hear this. I've got a little bit of a bit of woodlark song to play over the top. Beautiful bird. I hope you can hear that. Anyway, yeah, fantastic species. Lots of chance to see redstart as well, which is one of the Western trio. So you've got generally the Western trio is the redstart, the wood warbler, and the pied flycatcher. And certainly we should get redstarts when we're at Boulder Wood. But it's not just, of course, about birds. We'll get a chance to look for butterflies. So it's a great time to look for things like pearl-bordered fritillary down there. And the joyful thing about these wildlife worldwide trips is that we don't get obsessive birders, we don't get obsessive photographers. We get people who are just generally into everything, which I really love. People love to take photographs when the opportunity prevails, but they're really keen to identify the plants, the butterflies, the birds. So I love looking for butterflies, and I love identifying plants as well. So we'll certainly be doing that while we're down there. And on that day, we'll probably go back early, back to Warmwell House, and I'll get my moth trap out. We'll run my moth trap and then see what we've got the following morning. This is me with a poplar hawk moth on my nose, but it's a great time to go mothing mid-May. So we'll probably run the moth trap that evening and then see what they've got the following morning, because we've got a very exciting day planned. These are two very good pals of mine. You can obviously see me there. The chap in the middle is called Tony, and the chap on the right is called Peter. And sorry, Terry. And we're going to be doing a day looking for all 6 species of reptile. So Tony Gent is basically the chairman of HCT, which is the Herptile Conservation Trust, and Terry Bagley is a really experienced herptile recorder. So Tony and Terry, sorry, Howard, I beg your pardon, Howard, I never say what his name. Howard and Terry are taking us out for a day to try and see all 6 species of reptile in one day. We've got another exclusive. We're going to a fantastic place called Creech Heath to look for all 6 species. This is myself and Zachary with Howard. With Howard. We're looking here for smooth snake, a film we did for the one show that went out this summer, but we're going to a place that's even better, Creech Heath. And a lot of the time we'll be lifting up tins and looking underneath. And if you get a chance to see some of the reptiles, they are absolutely amazing. This is the rarest snake in Britain. This is the smooth snake. It's an absolutely fantastic animal. This is me and Zachary with the smooth snakes, and my boy got eye to eye. So what we'll do is, Howard and Terry are basically Britain's experts on smooth snake. They'll give us a guided walk and a guided talk around the whole of Creech Heath, and we'll look at the birds, but we'll be focusing on the reptiles. Now, for those people who want to get really good pictures, then this should be a great opportunity to kind of hopefully get pictures like that. Look at that smooth snake. Oh, my word. Just sensational. Well, also, as I should remember, in one of 6 is the grass snake. And probably the hardest snake to get is the one that's probably would be considered to be the easiest in most places. This is the adder, of course, our only venomous reptile, with its eye the colour of beech leaves in autumn. So the 3 species of reptile and also the 3 species of lizard. We'll hopefully get common lizard. We'll get a slow worm. Here's my boy Zachary with a slow worm, which is down at Arn in Dorset. and sand lizard, the male sand lizard. So we'll be going for all 6 at Creech Heath. We might even be able to go for a 7th. Terry said that he might be able to take us to a place that's got wall lizards as well, which are an introduced species. There's a small population hanging out there. So we might be able to get 7 species in one day, which very few people have done. So that's pretty exciting. We'll certainly drop into Arne as well, which is one of the best known sites in the whole of the southern heathlands and Dorset, to get our fill of fantastic birds and wildlife there. Get a chance to see things like Dartford warbler, iconic picture of a dartie sitting on top of a gorse strand with the smell of coconut all around you, because it's a lovely smell on gorse. We'll all get a chance to look for things like this, which is the green tiger beetle. Now, this is one of the mega charismatic beetles. Really good time, mid-May, to look for them. They sprint around the ground. They're predators, voracious predators. For anything, obviously, a centimetre and long, it's a mortal enemy, but they're no problems for us. So we'll get a chance to look for things like green tiger beetles as well. On another day, we'll be going down, back down into Dorset, and we'll go to Poole Harbour, and we'll take in the delights of Poole Harbour. And that will include, of course, Brownsea Island. And you can see Brownsea there, that wonderful island set right in the heart of Poole Harbour. And you can see the Wareham Channel over the back there, and the bit of studland that sticks out into the that's towards Arne, that sticks out into the Wareham Channel. So it's a fantastic place to go and visit. And we'll be going over to Brownsea Island, and on the way over we'll be looking for common seals. But the really exciting news as well is that ospreys are back. Ospreys are finally back. They started breeding in 2022 when CJ7, the female, and 022, the male, successfully finally bred and raised 2 chicks in 2022. They raised 3 chicks in 2023. And this is all down to the Roy Dennis Foundation. Roy Dennis is one of my conservation heroes. I mean, he's still going. He's kind of 75 and he's just an astonishing man. Of course, the ospreys were lost to England in 1847. And after the success of the water in the early 2000s, Roy decided to try and get, with Tim McQuill's help, his assistant, decided to try and get them back to Poole Harbour. Because the ospreys are doing really well in Scotland, and it's not that much food for them. It's much richer pickings in the south coast because they love feeding in estuaries. The old name of osprey is mullet hawk because the Poole Harbour, the estuary there, is teeming in grey mullet. So there is so much food for them. But the problem is that now the population has been lost, you need to try and establish a population. So what Roy did, he took 60 youngsters from 2017 up to 2022, I think, from surplus from nests from Scotland, where they're doing phenomenally well, and put them into hacking cages. Now, these cages are basically big cages with a big open front. And the idea is that they look out over Poole Harbour and they imprint Poole Harbour in their brain, in their DNA, so to speak. We're not pressing the DNA, but they kind of imprint it as a location they'll come back to because they always go back to their natal site. So they fed the fish there remotely, they were seeing no people. And then what happens with ospreys is they generally go to Senegal and Gambia for 2 years to overwinter, and then they will come all the way back to breed in the UK. And lo and behold, it worked. And they've got a pair breeding now, and there might be a second pair as well, I've heard. So we will have an exclusive. We'll have an exclusive to go to Carey's garden and overlook the osprey nest, where we'll get a chance to kind of hear about the ospreys and how well they're doing. And the other exciting thing, of course, is that eagles. I was very lucky because when the white-tailed eagles were released in 2016 on the Isle of Wight in 2019, 6 were released in 2019. I was the only television presenter there because I'm such good friends with Roy Dennis. I was the only presenter outside conservationist, the only person who's not a wildlife professional, who was taken to go and see the eagles fly out of the cages for the first time. And we got exclusive, and we filmed it for the one show. So they released 6 in 2019, 7 in 2020, and 12 in 2021. And lo and behold, there's a pair established on the Isle of Wight, but there's also a pair that have established at Poole Harbour. They've not started to breed yet because generally they take 5 or 6 years to reach adult maturity. And when they're adults, really, when they're adult plumage, that's the only time they're probably going to start breeding for the first time. So we're talking 25, 26. When we were out on the Poole Harbour osprey hunt, it's certainly worth keeping an eye out for the white-tailed eagles. So I mean, a lot of people are doom and gloom about wildlife in Britain, but we've got bustards back, we've got white-tailed eagles back, we've got ospreys back on the south coast, and that is reason for celebration. It's reason for celebration with you guys if you want to come on the trip. So yeah, we'll certainly be looking for ospreys on our cruise up and down the estuary, as well as stopping off at Brownsea Island. And this is Carey's Secret Garden here, where we'll get a chance to look out and look for either CJ7 or 022. Hopefully, if they come back from Senegal and Gambia, feeding or either incubating or feeding their young. And then we'll probably go back to Warmwell House. And the great thing is, Warmwell House has got a fantastic heathland attached to the land. And the guy who looks after all the wildlife and conservation at Warmwell Heath has asked if we want to go over in the evening and go and listen to nightjar. So there's nightjar really close by. So once again, apologies if you can't hear this, but we'll have our tea or dinner, tea as I say in the north, dinner as you say down south, and then we'll go out, we'll don up and we'll go out and we'll listen to this. For those that can't hear, that was the chirring of a nightjar. I'm almost there. Just at Brownsea Island, we'll definitely be visiting, taking the boat over. We'll have a chance to have a look around. It's got wonderful heathland, and most people want to go there for red squirrel. So we'll be on the hunt for the red squirrel while we'll be there. That's, as I said, the glory of wildlife worldwide. We're looking at birds, we're looking at mammals, we're looking at plants, reptiles, amphibians. So red squirrel will certainly be going for. And sika deer, there's a population of sika deer. So we should get fallow deer and possibly red deer. We should get roe deer, we should get sika deer as well. So we'll do pretty well for deer on the trip. And there's also a bit of shingle there. We'll get a chance to look for common terns and maybe avocets as well. And who knows, if we're really lucky, we'll see a black-tailed godwit. So I think I've talked for long enough. I hope you've been enthused about the talks. We're really excited. We're leading the South Coast trip this time. It's going to be epic. There's so many habitats. It will probably be the most species diverse trip that I've done. Generally, if I get 100 species in Scotland, I'm pretty pleased. Although there are things like black grouse, crested tit, golden eagle, white-tailed eagle, velvet scoter on that trip. But we'll get a chance, I would think, probably to see 125, 130 different species in Britain, which is remarkable. But all the reptiles and loads of mammals, staying in an amazing location with beautiful people, having a beautiful time checking out wildlife. But if you fancy Mull as well, there's still some spaces. I think there's a few spaces on my trip. Nick Baker's doing a trip the week after me, some spaces on Nick's trip. So I'd be absolutely delighted to welcome you on board any of those trips. My Somerset Levels trips in spring are full, my Islay trip's full, and my Ecuador trip's full. I think there's a few spaces, 1 or 2 spaces for Madagascar still. But anyway, enough of me talking. I'll pass you back to Ian to kind of MC the questions. And thank you very much for listening. It's very kind of you to kind of spend your evening listening to me rattle on. But I hope you've got some flavour as to, I mean, the beauty of Britain is, on one hand, you've got the species of the South Coast, you've got the species of Mull. I mean, talk about diversity. We live in a wonderful island where it's the crossroads for wildlife from the world over. And I mean, it'd be criminal not to enjoy it. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Mike. That was fantastic. And yeah, it's just so uplifting as well to hear about so many of these conservation success stories, wildlife coming back. We hear so many, concerning statistics around the state of nature in this country. So it's wonderful to be celebrating and supporting these organisations doing such vital work. So yeah,
we've got to be really positive, put a positive spin on these things. I've always been, it's glass half full rather than glass half empty. And the great thing is, for example, we're going to Creech, we're making a donation to the Herpetile Conservation Trust so we can carry on their work protecting this incredibly important site. When we're going to see the ospreys, we're making a donation as well, and also the great bustards, we're making a donation to Dave Waters' project there as well. So your money is going directly supporting these projects. So yeah, we're really excited by loads going on. I mean, Mull is amazing, and South Coast is going to be a brave new world as well.
Fantastic. Thanks, Mike. Just before we get stuck into some questions, I'm just going to launch our poll, which has 4 travel plans you can request. So we obviously got the South Coast trip, Mull, but also Shetland and our Festival of British Wildlife, because it's sort of along the same lines of kind of celebrating all wildlife. So I'll just launch that now.
I didn't even mention Shetland. Shetland as well.
Yeah, we do so many trips. So.
And more sea you set the stick at. Anyway, wildlife with loads of people like Nick Garbutt and Alex Hyde and Nick Aitchison. So we have a blast there. So yeah, anyway, I know quite a few of my friends who are guests are coming on that trip. So I'm looking forward to seeing a few people that I know very well.
Yeah, it's going to be good fun. Great stuff. Okay, I'll just get started on.
Host and panelists can't vote here. Oh, that's a shame. I'd vote for all of them myself.
Okay.
Again, I'll vote for all of us. That's okay.
I'll just start with a question that hopefully sort of covers a few bits, which generally speaking, how much walking is it involved in both of these trips, both Mull and the South Coast?
Not a lot, if I'm entirely honest. We can inform everyone before they get out the minibus how far. Mull, there's very little. A lot of the time we're driving around, we jump out the minibus. There's a little bit of walking on the Shants when we have to walk up the top of that puffin platform that I talked about, and there's a little bit of a walk to Hart Walk. A couple of guests didn't fancy the walk to Hart Walk, and they just wanted to stay with the puffins last year. So half the group stayed with the puffins, and half the group followed me and Alexa over to Hart Walk. So on Mull, very little. A little bit more, I would say, on the South Coast, but it's mostly flat. It'll be flat around Portland Bill, around Creech Heath. I've been there. There's, we'll be doing, I don't know, a couple of kilometres maximum, but it's not it's not a forced march anywhere. It'll be stopping, resting, looking, moving on. So all of the, certainly both those trips, it's kind of very gentle, very, very little walking. And if people have got an issue, they can always talk to me and Ed or me and Alexa beforehand and let us know. But we can certainly make it happen with people with quite limited mobility.
Great stuff. Thank you. And just quickly on that as well, with the puffins on Mull, do you know how roughly wide the sort of plank is getting across the Treshnish?
It's walk the plank. Won't slip off, because it's got kind of stanchions either side. And I used to think about myself to make sure the guests all get across, and Alexa does as well, because sometimes it can be a little slippy on the rocks, but we've got a well-tried and tested technique for getting everybody on and everybody off. And we've never had an accident yet. But yeah, me and Alexa, we will make sure that everyone gets on and off safely. I mean, I've been to the Shants 20 times. Alexa's been maybe 3 million. So between us, we're well sorted. So yeah, we'll make sure it'll be fine.
Yeah,
that's the only one where there's a little bit of walking involved, but it's worth a walk when you get up there and you see it with Alex Hyde taking the photographs of those puffins. It blows your socks off. So I mean, for photographers, Mull is out of this world. The white-tailed seagulls and otters possible, and puffins, and you just fill your boots. But with all my trips, I always say that I'm I take some photographs. I'm not really a wildlife photographer myself. I'm about looking at the wildlife, finding the wildlife, getting you guys onto it, getting you guys to enjoy it, telling you about it, all that stuff. But more than happy to accommodate photographers at any point here. So, but sometimes we have to kind of move on. We can't stand for 3 hours filming, photographing a crested tit. If everyone's seen a crested tit quite well, we will move on. But I love it when photographers come on because they give me all their photographs and I put them all in the tour report, and the guests get all their pictures on the tour report, which is beautiful. So they get to see their pictures blown up on the Wildlife Worldwide TTN tour report. So yeah, we welcome photographers, absolutely.
Lovely stuff. Thank you. And so just leading on from that, for anyone that sort of considers sort of wanting to duck out of activities and things, particularly on these two extravaganzas, is that something they can do and they can sort of enjoy the grounds for half a day or something?
Yeah, I mean, of course, every day is optional. We're not going to, the last thing we'll do is hammer it. I like to try and get back at least an hour before we meet for checklists. We always do it. I love doing a checklist. I love a checklist, as you know, Ian. Yeah. And we will sit down and we'll do a checklist of what we've seen each day. So yeah, it helps me write the trip report at the end. And we use, say for example, if we're having dinner at 7:30, we'll do the checklist at 7 o'clock, and we'll try and get back for 6 o'clock. So we will give people a full hour to rest, put their feet up, have a shower, have a bath, change their clothes, whatever. People really like that time just to wind down and relax before we meet up again. But absolutely, Warnwell House and Knock are just stunning grounds anyway. So people want to, I mean, last time on Mull, a couple who are a little bit more elderly just wanted a day just to kind of catch up in the middle. And they loved it. They just hung around Knock House the whole day and saw loads of stuff and wandered down to Loch McKeer looking for otters. So yeah, we can give you Jen as to where to go. I mean, you basically have to, if you at Warnwell House, you have a grade 1 listed house to yourself. You can pretend you're Lord and Lady of the Manor. It'd be amazing. But yeah, there is that opportunity always. Just come and chat to me and Ed or me and Alexa and just say, I just fancy fancy a day out today, and we can easily kind of move things around.
Great stuff. Thanks. And could you just sort of give a bit more background to Ed, who you're leading the South Coast with?
Ed Druitt. I was Ed's best man. We've known each other a long time. I first met Ed on the very precursor to Spring Watch, which is called Wild in Your Garden. And me and Ed were employed as bird experts to try and find nests. We're talking kind of 25 years ago. And he's become one of my best birding friends. We've been to the Gambia, Spain, Poland, Israel, all over Britain together, England, Scotland and Wales. We've done loads of birding together, just as a birding pair. And we haven't done many, we go out for day trips now because we've both got families and we can't indulge ourselves with a week-long birding trip to Poland to go and look at amazing things like we saw wolf there, which is fantastic, and see all the rough displaying and going to the Ebja marshes and the Eleviesia forest. But we catch up very regularly, and Ed is just a phenomenal birder. I mean, to be honest, he slightly edges me. I'm a better all-round naturalist. I blow him out of the water when it comes to plants and butterflies and moth stuff, but he does slightly edge me as a bit. So it really hurts me to say that. We were both white hot, but he is slightly hotter than I am. But yeah, I don't admit that with many people, but I do with Ed. So yeah, certainly you'll be in good hands. And Ed knows the South Coast really well. He has tour leaded on the dark side before he came over to the light side. And I know Ed's running a trip to Trinidad and Tobago, where he knows very well with Wildlife Worldwide. And he's a fantastic guide and an incredibly experienced tour leader and a brilliant naturalist. So yeah, Ed and Alexa is just most wonderful to work with. Just fun and entertaining. Knows Mull like the back of her hand, and it's just everyone loves her. So yeah, so I'm very lucky. I've got two brilliant co-guides on both trips. Brilliant
dream teams.
But yeah, we it's 50-50 as well. There's no kind of one in charge. It's a double act. So yeah, and hopefully the guests kind of feed off that.
Thanks, Mike. And then also, could you just give a little more kind of detail about why the sort of extravaganza trips are that little bit different to some of your other trips?
Yeah, there's just the kind of exclusive. Having looked at it, if you're interested in it, they are a little bit more expensive. And there are cheaper trips that I do, and there are cheaper trips that Wildlife or Wide do. But these are designed for a kind of more exclusive. You get the same guide, and you get the same guide grafting his Watsons off to find everything I possibly can. The one thing I always say about my trips is there's no guarantees. The only thing you can guarantee is that I will work my socks off to find everything I possibly can. But the accommodation, for starters, is outrageous, and we have the accommodation to ourselves. The food is wonderful. I mean, I think it's certainly at Mull, and I'm hopefully at South Coast as well. It's going to be Michelin-starred food. It is just sensational, and we've organised a lot more things whereby it's just us. For example, when I go to Speyside, we have an exclusive in the Pine Martin hide, and it's great that the guests enjoy it because we haven't, it's just us. We don't have to share it with any of the guests. There might be some annoying Americans who are talking all the time and going, "Gee, and photographs are great." We don't have to share them with anyone like that. We've got the place to ourselves. So all the exclusives. I mean, the exclusive on Mull Charters with white-tailed eagles. We've got the Great Bustard thing, Great Bustard Group with Dave Waters. We've got Creech. We've got a boat trip as well. We've got a couple of exclusive boat trips. So it's just much more kind of us as a group, and a kind of, I don't want to kind of elevate it to kind of VIP experience. And I like to think all the trips are a VIP experience, but the accommodation and the food and the exclusive nature to some of the trips are really something else, I think. I mean, I couldn't believe it. I think Ian found Warmell, you found Warmell House here. And I went there to have a look with Ed, and I was like, aren't we doing well? It's amazing. So well done, Ian, for finding it. It's an astonishing place to stay. And the owners are just so welcoming, and they just say, just lock the doors, you go to bed. We'll be down the lodge at the bottom of the avenue. I mean, they've just given us the whole place. It's absolutely, frankly, astonishing. Someone like me letting loose with all the keys in a Grade 1 listed house. I was slightly worried about kind of knocking off paintings or something like that, but anyway, they're really, really lovely, and that's why they are a little bit more expensive. But of course, there are trips to sort all pockets, and my Sunset Levels trips and my Speyside trips are a little bit cheaper. But this is just something a little bit more exclusive, and I hope I haven't kind of turned anyone off with that. But yeah, that's why it is a bit more expensive.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. That's really, really well described. And yeah, sort of staying in places like Warmell and Knockhouse, they're so memorable. And sort of adding to that social experience in the evenings. Everyone can sort of
ourselves. It's wonderful. We sit in like Lord and Lady of the house, and I think I'm very grateful of anyone who turns up on my trips. When Ian rings me up and say Somerset Levels is full, I'm thrilled because I want to share Somerset Levels or Speyside or Mull or I want to share these places with people, and I want them to enjoy it. And when you get a good number of people on these trips, then it's a really beautiful thing. So yeah, I mean, I think we had a couple of cancellations because of a few ill people. I think we're looking quite healthy in numbers for the South Coast, and I think 3 people have had 2 I know very well, very dear to my heart actually, Michelle and Steve. I mean, Michelle's been quite poorly, so they're hoping to come in 2025. So a few people have had to drop out, but we have got spaces on both, but they are both guaranteed to run. And I'd be excited to see you on either of those or any of the other trips where I'd like to get a VIP experience on any of the trips I do.
Fantastic. Thank you, Mike. Got one more here, which is just sort of, have you got sort of hopes and sort of predictions for what sort of wildlife you might see coming back, sort of next in either, southern Britain or Scotland, obviously, sort of in the future?
Yeah, what's really exciting is about the fact that someone like Roy Dennis and the Roy Dennis Foundation have said, we're going to get ospreys back, we're going to get white-tailed eagles back. And I just think Scotland needs to show more ambition. There's a brilliant article, I'm terrible with names, you can remind me the name of what's the name of the author?
Derek Gow?
Derek Gow, thank you, Ian. We talked about it earlier today. I completely forgot his name. Derek Gow and BBC Wildlife, which I write a column for, wrote about wolves coming back and how wolves have been persecuted. They've been persecuted because they've been vilified for no reason. And he said the Highlands of Scotland should have 50, 60 wolf packs quite easily. And they're doing really well in Germany, in Austria, in Italy. And we're sending British tourists, Wildlife Worldwide and other tour companies, are sending British tourists to go and see wolves abroad. Why aren't we sending British tourists to go and see bloody British wolves? I mean, there's too many deer in Scotland. Everyone says, I love Caledonian Scottish pine forests. There's only 1% left. And that 1% is in danger because there's so many deer. They're browsing all the trees, browsing all the young saplings coming off. We need the deer controlled with a top predator. And well, in my lifetime, I not see the wolf come back. I definitely think there's an opportunity of seeing Scottish lynx coming back. And the Scottish lynx is a brilliant example. We'll introduce it into the pine forest. No one will ever see them. And they'll just occasionally find some bug marks. They'll find some scat. They'll get them on camera traps. And everyone, they might see them occasionally. But they'll just, and it'd be brilliant taking tourists up there and looking for the signs. And well, because the great thing on Mull is Dave Sexton, who's RSPB officer for Mull, who's a great friend of mine. And Dave gives us a talk on Mull every time we go there about the white-tailed eagles on Mull. He says that they bring about white-tailed eagles, the golden eagles, to Mull, bring £10 million a year into the economy of Mull. They're more important than fishing. They're more important than crofting. And that's the way we make wildlife work, because it figures on the balance sheet. And if we can, it's the ultimate win-win, because people will pay to go to Scotland to go and see a Scottish wildcat, or try and find Scottish wildcat, but also as well, they'll control the deer because there are way too many deer. And people say, well, I think it's horrible they're chasing down the deer. But the problem is there are too many deer. They're not eating well enough because they're competing for the same food. And also because the density is so high, they're passing disease to one another. So the deer are better off by actually being controlled by a top predator as well. And then people say, oh, I'm worried about my Jack Russell being taken by a lynx. It's like, I'll never meet. Jack Russell will be in Inverness, and a Scottish wildcat will be in the forests down at somewhere like Rose Isle, and they will never meet each other because it's not a cheetah running around the suburbs looking for wildlife. It's an animal that's a sitting weight predator behind. You got me on my hobby horse here. In my lifetime, I'd love to see lynx, and obviously beaver. We're going some way with getting beavers back, which is fantastic news. So beaver, lynx, and wolf, pretty please. And we've done it with ospreys and eagles and bustards. Why can't we go a bit further with mammals? It's frustrating.
Yeah, very inspiring stuff. Thanks, Mike. And just a quick question on getting to Oban. Can you just sort of explain a little bit how most people usually get to Oban, which is our sort of meeting point for Mull trips?
Yeah, it's very straightforward actually. We go to Oban, we go to the ferry terminal. It's about an hour ferry across. Some people like to take their cars over. You can pay for your car to go over. Some people like to you can park your car at Tesco's. It's for about £60–70 for the week. Actually, it's surprisingly cheap. Maybe even less than that. Don't quote me, but I'm not entirely sure. But it's about £60–70 to take your car over. So you can either get by train to Oban if you're not driving up, and meet us at Oban ferry terminal, or you can drive to the ferry terminal, put your own car on, or you can park your car at Tesco's in Oban and then walk down to the ferry terminal where I will be waiting for you, and then we'll all go on together. We'll go on deck. We'll go looking for black guillemots and harbour porpoise and possibly a white-tailed eagle, and then we'll meet Alexa on Mull. So there'll be 2 minibuses, and so we can meet everyone at the Oban ferry terminal at a very reasonable hour. It's actually very straightforward to get to, unlike Shetland, which can be a bit tricky. Yeah, Oban's straightforward, and obviously we haven't sorted out the devil of the detail about South Coast, but that should be straightforward as well. We'll find a meeting place. It'll either be at Warmwell House if people are driving, or we can do pickups at the nearest train station or bus station. So we'll sort that out. There's nothing that can't be sorted. Great,
thank you, Mike. I think that's all the questions we've had this evening. So yeah, I'll just let everyone know our next talk is on Discover Columbia with Rob Smith on the 18th of April. And yeah, I'd like to. Sorry.
That'd be amazing. Rob's
yeah. Exceptional diversity there. So yeah, I'd like to thank you again, Mike, for a truly inspiring talk, and it's so nice to hear how so much to celebrate so much of the wildlife of the UK and these iconic species that we can see. So
And the wonderful thing is that when we go and see this stuff, we are contributing towards their conservation, be it on Mull, be it on the South Coast. We all make a contribution towards the economy of Mull, the economy of the South Coast, and directly into the conservation project. So you're enjoying the wildlife and you're contributing towards its conservation, which is just a beautiful thing. Thanks so much for giving your time up, everyone, this evening. Thanks, Ian, for hosting. And I'll hope to see you on a trip sometime soon. And hi to all my friends out there.
Great stuff. Thank you, Mike, again. And thank you all for joining us this evening. We hope to see you again soon.